Hey, it's YouTube, Karatha here. I spent the last 10 days playing Ruthless mode. Now, Ruthless is in alpha currently, and it's getting released in 3.20. However, it's still going to be in beta, so it's not completely finished, and honestly, I'm not sure when it will actually be finished. With this in mind, GG has decided to not allow you to do challenges for whatever reason in this game mode. Now that that's out of the way, I do want to talk about Ruthless and give some feedback and my first thoughts and my impressions on it, and if I'm going to play it in League Launch, as well as how I feel about certain mechanics, and yeah, let's get into it. Now, Ruthless is a game mode that's built around scarcity. The game is extremely slowed down, you get less experience, you get less item drops, less currency drops, you can't buy gems from vendors, and support gems only are drop only, and ores are drop only as well. It's a very different game pace from a normal game, and a lot of people are not going to like it. I'm going to be honest, most people will not enjoy Ruthless. However, there is a portion of the population that will really enjoy Ruthless, and you might be one of those people. You might not even think you would like it, but if you try it, you might enjoy it. Certain builds are not very viable in Ruthless as starters, like builds that require a lot of support gems or a lot of specific setups will not be very viable. Builds that are viable, however, and I'll mention some of the strong ones here. Hold Dot, Steel Skills, like Champion Steel Skills. Helix was pretty strong, though it's getting a nerf, so we'll see how Helix holds up after that. Traps all seem pretty good, like Trapper in general is pretty good. Basically builds that can use multiple active skill gems and link like 1 to 2 supports with it will do really, really well, because you're unlikely to actually find very many support gems for your build. You might actually end Act 10 on a 1 link. If you're really lucky, you might have a 2 or 3 link, but that would be extremely lucky and not something that you would do all the time. Now, gem meal becomes quite important, especially early on in an SSF, because you pretty much only get gems from the quest rewards. And there is a point in the game where you can get a special gem reward where it lets you buy a gem, like an active gem below level 31. There's 2 of those quests, one's at library and one's after Innocence, I believe, in Act 5. But other than that, gems are extremely hard to get, and most of them are drop only. The only things you can buy from the vendor are the active gems with those 2 quest rewards. So gem mulling does feel pretty important, and gems are going to be pretty expensive in Trade League probably. So gems are going to have a lot of value if you're playing Trade League Ruthless. And what this means is, it's actually super exciting when you find a support gem. Like, you find a support gem on the ground, you're actually really excited. Same with ores. Ores are super rare as well, and you can't buy ores either. You do, however, get access to precision, clarity, and vitality. These come from a quest reward off of, I think after you kill Brutus, you have a option on some classes to get those gems. Which brings me to the next point. If you actually want a specific gem and your class doesn't get it, at least if you're playing SSF, you have to actually meal a character to get that gem. So it does feel kind of weird with that, but trading gems are going to be really, really nice. You're pretty much always going to pick gems up, unless it's like a really not useful gem. I mean, also, gems that are not used very often in the normal game can be quite useful in Ruthless. This is something that surprised me quite a bit. I found use for a lot of gems I've never even used in a normal game. This is for a couple of reasons, I think. First off, you don't have movement skills in Ruthless, so it's a pretty big gameplay change. Certain underused gems can be pretty useful, like Ambush. Ambush can be used as like a pseudo movement skill. Basically, what it does is it exerts an attack, and you teleport to a monster. So you don't have movement skills, but Ambush can act as like a pseudo movement skill. That was really nice to use. I used that quite a bit, actually. I was playing a Trapper, and I found Siphoning Trap was quite useful. People have been using Siphoning Trap, I think, a bit in the main game, but I was unaware of how strong it was before Ruthless mode. Speaking of movement skills, not having movement skill gems makes Ruthless extremely hard. Or I wouldn't say hard, but like it's a different mindset. You really have to be pretty like calculating about where you're moving your character, like where you're placing your character, like your positioning becomes a lot more important. Where you're at matters a lot because you get surrounded by monsters. Like, monsters are faster than you. Like, you could have a Quicksilver up and be running away, but the monster's just hitting you in the back because you're slower than it. These are all things that can happen in Ruthless. You really need to be mindful of like what you're walking into, and just make sure you have a way out. Which brings me to my next point. Phasing is quite insane in Ruthless. You really want to have a phasing flask always, but it's actually a lot harder to have phasing flask up because the way flasks work in Ruthless is they don't gain charges if you have them active, which is a problem in itself. So you have to be really careful a lot when you're using your flask. This becomes like it's the sort of thing where you actually have to make decisions, and like your decisions matter a lot more. So it's just like a slower gameplay in that regard. This does have another like side effect of making Raider quite good. Raider has perma-phasing, so Raider could potentially be like the meta in Ruthless. I did play a Raider like MFing character and stacked frenzy charges with Ice Bite, and that seemed pretty strong. Like this MFing some low tier maps and like some bosses. Over farming and boss farming. And Rarity. I want to talk about Rarity like in its separate category, because that's something I'm not sure how I feel about yet. But boss farming is now a thing again. Like farming end of act bosses with Rarity gear will be quite a bit better now. You find a lot more rares off bosses than you do in the normal game. Because if you're not aware, like end of act bosses have a huge Rarity bonus. Most of the time you probably won't notice it, but in Ruthless you definitely notice it. You do not find very many rares in Ruthless, but if you kill an end of act boss, you might see a couple of rares almost every time. The boss farming is a thing again. Lab farming seemed pretty good, but they're like changing things always, so it's like hard to say if lab farming will be good or not. But things like lab uniques are still in the game, so like you could farm for those. Stuff like that might be really strong. Like Del was quite good, Alva was quite good, but that stuff's kind of unfinished, and I'm not gonna go too into like the actual league mechanics because a lot of them were unfinished in alpha, and they're probably gonna be balancing that the entire league. But yeah, Rarity. So Rarity is a bit weird for me. Rarity in Ruthless seems a little too strong. It has a snowball effect where if you don't have any Rarity at all, you're not going to find anything. But if you have like 20 Rarity, you'll start seeing a lot more rares, and then you get more Rarity and start finding some unique items, and it kind of snowballs from there. So if you get lucky and find a good Rarity piece early on, you'll really notice it. Like if you get really, really lucky and find like a rare pair of like boots or something, or like a helmet that's Rarity on it, it's super noticeable. Like you go from having like no rares drop to having quite a few actually. So Rarity is a bit of a weird thing for me. Rarity seems like something you have to have in Ruthless. A lot of people were like, yeah, but it's like a downside because you lose combat stats, but you get so many more rares and you get so many more Alch shards because of that, it just seems like a no-brainer that you have to run Rarity. But I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. But Rarity is super strong in Ruthless. Leveling. So leveling in Ruthless, you actually get a big XP penalty in Ruthless, especially like later on in like near like level 80. It starts on a lot, but I felt like while leveling, since you don't have movement skill, you're actually killing like every monster basically, and you're just kind of walking through the game. You actually kind of end up the same level as you would otherwise be, I think, in like a normal game. A lot like leveling in Ruthless, it's a lot slower for sure, but like your level kind of keeps up. I would recommend farming a lot more though. Like over farming in Ruthless is really, really good, because gym XP is a lot lower too. This means overfarming gyms is a huge deal because gyms don't actually have an XP penalty for like the zone level. They always get 100% of the XP from the monsters you're killing. Gyms level a lot slower. It's like 75% less gym XP. I think I entered maps at like level 14 or 15 gyms. Normally it's like 16 or 17 if you farm. And it does not get much better from there. I actually played for like 20 hours, like 25 hours in my character, and my gyms barely hit level 18. And that was with a lot of farming. Maps are also extremely rare and hard to get. It's not like that bad early on to get like all your white map completion, but once you start getting into yellow maps and red maps, it's like pretty hard to get completion because you actually need alchemies and you need Val Orbs, and I'm gonna be honest, chat, you do not get very many currency item drops in this mode. I saw a total of probably like 3 Val Orbs during my entire time playing, and I found 0 Regals, 0 Exalts, 0 Divines. Even alterations are super rare in this mode. You're just not going to find very much currency. If you find currency, you got pretty lucky. Now, with all that being said, I actually really enjoyed playing Ruthless. Ruthless was quite enjoyable to me. Like the change of pace was refreshing. It was pretty interesting, like getting excited over seeing a support gem drop and like actually thinking about what I could do with it. This kind of brings me back to like why I like SSF. I like finding things on the ground that can make new characters with, and it kind of gives me ideas, and like I kind of just build around what I find. Ruthless has a lot of that. You're going to be finding items that are like really interesting for a certain build that's probably not good for your current build, and you're like, oh, maybe I can reroll and play this. So if you like doing things like that, Ruthless is super fun. If you only like playing one character, I would say you should probably play Trade League in Ruthless, because to be honest, you're not going to probably find enough stuff for your one character in SSF. Being able to trade will help a lot with that. And yeah, so if you do want to play this one character, I would recommend playing Trade League. And yeah, overall, I quite enjoyed it. It was pretty fun. I'm probably not going to play Ruthless on League Lunch though. I'm pretty excited to try the League out with like the normal game first, and then come back to Ruthless maybe later. I did enjoy it enough to say that I do want to play it again though. Yeah, it was quite fun actually. Very refreshing. Like the gameplay is a lot slower. You have to be more calculating. You have to think about what you're doing a lot more. Decisions matter more. If you like all that, like if you like the sound of that, you'll probably enjoy Ruthless. But then, like I said before, not everyone's going to enjoy Ruthless, and a lot of people are going to be like, why are you playing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? But it is what it is. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys want to hear more of my thoughts, just let me know in the comments below. I will try and make more videos like this. And I hope you guys have a good League launch, and I'll see you guys next time.